Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming here. So my topic's probably a little bit different than what we normally think about in the College of Education, and I'm going to talk about the bright side of youth suicide, and I don't mean that flippantly or glib. I think that what I want to do is kind of get an idea or get kind of a bright light on the topic of youth suicide. Youth suicide is the second leading cause of death in Washington State. It's the second leading cause of death in the United States overall as well. And so we need to be doing something about this. And so I want to shine a very bright light on it because it's a very dangerous place for us to be. And so just kind of getting a show of hands, how many people here have lost someone due to suicide or know that someone close that was suicidal? So I'm looking at 75, 80% of you are saying yes, and yet we don't talk about it. It's a very stigmatized topic in our society. So we don't have conversations at our Super Bowl parties or at our establishments that talk about suicide much at all. And so I think we need to be doing something more than that. And so for the past 25 years as a school psychologist, I've been studying about the risk factors and profiles of kids who engage in suicidal behavior or who die from suicidal behavior. And so trying to identify those kids so that our schools can do something about that. I've been fortunate in the last 3 to 4 years to be working with the Forefront organization out of the social work, UW Social Work, and pairing up with the McCaw Foundation to help develop a training academy called Forefront Academy that recently in September we had a 2-day training for 14 different high schools in King County where we brought in principals, parents, teachers, and health and mental health professionals to teach them about what these kids look like, what to do with those kids, how to deal with this issue, and how to bring it out into the open and put a light on suicidal behavior because it is on our kids' minds, just like you've already had that experience as well. And so one of the things that's been important about doing that is to say, okay, if we know this is going on, how do we get ahead of it and how do we start working with some of those kids who have engaged in that suicidal behavior or who are having thoughts about suicide? So we've been doing that. We have an ongoing consultation with those 14 different schools, and we've already are planning our year 2 and year 3, so we want to keep kind of supporting the schools and change the system so that we can work with some of these kids on the educational mental health side, because kids that are struggling with suicidal thoughts, struggling with mental health issues, aren't learning very much. And so the academic side really kind of takes second nature. In doing that, though, youth suicide doesn't come from nowhere. It doesn't come out of the blue. It actually comes out of this sea of adolescent mental health. And as you can see, adolescence kind of is a stormy time. How many people here had a drama-free adolescence? No? Just me? I'm the only one? Yeah, me neither, right? And so we know adolescence is a time that's kind of stormy. We know these rain clouds come and go, all right? And what's a rain squall for one student is an absolute hurricane category 5 for another. And so how do we prepare students to do that? So in doing a bunch of this research, I kept saying to myself, here we go again. Here comes the 9th grade cohort. Here comes the 8th grade cohort. How many people are going to be at risk for suicide this time and this time and this time? We're not changing the flow. We have to get back upstream to start changing the flow of students who are going to engage in suicidal behavior. So the other part of my research that I've been spending the last 8 to 10 years on with a couple of co-authors is to develop a social emotional learning curriculum that teaches kids proactively how to deal with emotional distress, interpersonal effectiveness, and mindfulness types of things. This type of curriculum, which is now a class like algebra, Spanish, and calculus, would be a class that goes to all students. So it's a universal curriculum. Students get a grade in it that counts for part of their GPA, and we start giving kids a toolbox of strategies and skills so that when the next squall comes through, they have something that they're prepared to deal with it. Instead of saying, okay, good luck with that. I hope that they learn how to get by this one. Because all of us are here through mainly trial and error. We didn't have that toolbox. We kind of developed it based on some of our mistakes and based on some of the results that we've had. And so if we can be proactive in a universal way to give all kids a toolbox that they can adapt for themselves, then we can provide them with some of those strategies, some of their first aid to take care of themselves. And so that curriculum has mindfulness in it, has interpersonal effectiveness, distress tolerance, and then emotion regulation. And if those pieces can get into their toolbox for their situations, we're certainly hoping that they'll think about suicide a lot less, they'll learn how to ask for help, and we should see, hopefully keeping our fingers crossed, some of the youth suicidal behavior and deaths due to suicide coming down. Thank you.